Hi, everybody. It's Julie Fairhurst, and I'm here with Shawna Roch, and we are in Conversations with Women Like Me. I'm so excited to have Shawna here, you guys. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Shawna actually wrote her story in volume 2 of Women Like Me. So this is the book here, and her chapter is called Finding Your Inner Power. You are your secret sauce. I love that. Shawna is a mindset and success coach, and she lives in this really cool town in Alberta, Canada called Black Diamond. I would love to live in a town called Black Diamond. Anyway, welcome, Shawna. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here. Yes, Black Diamond, and we live in Diamond Crescent.
Oh. Well, let's start, Shawna, by maybe you could just tell us why did you decide that you wanted to write your story in the book?
Well, Julie, I've thought about it over the years, and just there's so many stories. I was in a male-dominated industry for 25 years, and you can imagine there are a lot of stories came up being a successful woman in that industry. So there was always some kind of stories. And throughout my 25-year career, I would have other women, be having conversations with them, like, you should write a book on that. You should write a book on that. And it's always kind of been there as far as a book, but the opportunity to be a part of this amazing book with all these other women and to tell my story and to share it, hoping it'll inspire others. It was an opportunity that I was like, yeah, I want to be a part of this.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, thank you for that. So Shawna, you as you said, you were in a male-dominated industry, and you were in sales. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So what was that like selling? I mean, were you the only female salesperson, or how did that come to be?
Well, it came to be is I started actually as a marketing manager. I was a marketing manager for a company, and I tell the story in the book. For 5 years, I was the marketing manager, and then I wanted to go into sales because when I watched this, it was literally a revolving door of salesmen, and it was just they were coming and going, and I was, as a marketing manager, and helping my clients with their marketing. I built wonderful relationships. And so I wanted to move into the sales side of things. And it just intrigued me because I honestly thought I could do a better job. and because for me, I knew the customers, right? I knew their business. I knew the marketing side of things. Whereas and this isn't a knock for all men, but the men that I had experienced that I was working with at that point in time, like I said, with the revolving door, it was all about the commissions. It was all what's in it for me. It wasn't about the customer.
Right.
So
I was just going to say that I think can make all the difference. That mindset about that it's just not about the money. Of course, we deserve to make a decent income, and that's good, and we should have the ability to do that. But yeah, if we're in service, if we're in sales, we're in service.
Yeah, exactly. But there was a lot of, back then, the old thing around sales, and sales is slimy, and commission and blah blah blah. And so it was all those old limiting beliefs back then that I didn't believe in. Right. Because I was all about, because I knew the customers at a different level, working with them on the business side and the marketing side. I knew them where I was like, I can help you on the sales side.
Yes.
And so that I was just really intrigued, and it was a role I wanted to play, like to be a part of within the organization. And at that time, there were no female sales reps within the company. They were all men. Right. And my husband, we just were recently married. We worked for the same company. And so I applied for this sales role. And I was literally turned down because I was married to Bernie. And they told me, like, afterwards, when I asked, they came right out and said to me, well, we didn't feel the wife should be making more money than the husband.
Oh my goodness. Hey,
what it came down to.
I'm curious, do you remember what year around that year would be?
That's probably back in, I want to say, around 1996-ish.
But still not that. You'd think that they would have gotten over that whole stigma by then. Yeah. How did you react? I mean, I don't know, like, I don't even know how I would react if somebody said that to me. So
it was kind of twofold, because at first it was like I didn't get the job. And then when I asked afterwards, when I asked my boss, I went to his office, shut the door, and I asked him why. And when he told me that, I was just like, what? And then the other part was, and here's the other one for women, it was like, you are so good at your existing job that we couldn't replace you, because I did a lot of his work for him. So when he was away playing golf 200 times a year or whatever it was, I was doing his job, and I was so good at my job, and I was also good at making him look good. And so,
oh, for sure.
again, but that's what, as women, we come up against, right? So it's like, no, you're so good here, we don't want to move you there.
Yeah, yeah, you almost get it. It's difficult because you're dedicated and you're doing the best job that you can and you're succeeding at it, but yet you're being punished in a way.
Yeah, you're being held back. And I really wanted to move into a sales role. So I handed in my resignation. I quit.
Wow. So you quit that company?
Yeah, I quit that company.
But didn't you end up going back to that company and getting another position, or?
No, I left that company and it was a sales position with another company.
Yeah. Oh, so you didn't go back to that company at all then? Yeah. That's a real, when you think back on that, like, that's really quite a shame, because you could have really, I mean, who knows what you could have done for the company.
Yeah. Well, and I look at my 25-year career, and it was like I generated way over $75 million.
Wow.
And so it's like, there was a huge opportunity for me, and I already had that one level relationship with the customers already.
Yes.
Right. And so I knew which customers were at this level, which customers, like when you actually analyze the counts, going, okay, well, we have 80% of their sales, that other 20%, can we get that 20%? If not, move on to the next account. So I'd already analyzed all the accounts. I knew which ones I could grow, which ones I couldn't. Like, I was coming at it from a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
So I was just like, so when I handed in my resignation, like, they wanted me to stay, but I was already done, because I moved around for a few companies, because it's like, when I brought what I was bringing to the table, but then you came back and didn't bring what, and then kind of like backed out on what you promised me. And then there was that loss of trust and respect. It was like, I was done. I just I was no longer aligned with it.
Yeah. I know in the book, I remember reading a part where you say that you were so depressed and distraught that you got sick, you were drinking too much, you didn't want to get out of bed. And was that around the time that before you, like, was that like after they told you couldn't get the job and before you quit?
That was actually several years later with another company.
Oh, wow. And
so that was several years later with another company. I'd already worked for a few different companies and was very successful, very well. And then it was the last company I worked at that, it hit me pretty hard, because it very much was a culture. There was another saleswoman within that company, but I was hired a different way than anybody else. So I was focusing on one equipment line, one product line.
Right.
And so I dove into that. But the thing with where it hit me hard was a lot of companies have, I don't even know how else to say this, then the wrong people in the wrong positions. Let's just put it that way. Right. So the more I was out there selling, generating money for the company, the more other sales people, well, men, were sitting in their offices and weren't doing the same. So then it became a situation where, again, it was like this target on my back, because just by me being me, going out there and generating all this business, other people weren't getting out of their offices by their choice. So then again, here's where the mindset comes in. Was their limiting beliefs was I was making them look bad.
Wow.
Where really they were making themselves look bad.
No, for sure.
Blaming me for it, right?
So no, that's it. That sounds like a really stressful environment.
It became very toxic. People wanted me fired. People tried to get me fired. They moved me from one location to another. And here I was the one planning all the summer parties, the Christmas parties. Like, I was always the one bringing everybody together. But it just kind of went sideways. And I just, it was a really rough time for me because I didn't know what to do anymore. And it became a point where, honestly, Julie, if I sat in my office all day long and had a few papers on my desk, to them, I looked busy.
Oh.
So it was like, if I sat in the office all day long, I'm doing my job. But my job was outside sales, generating income for the company. The more time I spent more outside, the more I got, flagged upon, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So it was crazy. It's like, where's Shawna? What's Shawna doing? Like all the things. And it's like, I'm doing my job.
Yes.
So it became so horrific, because that's about the only word I can say, where people weren't even talking to me for months on end. And I would be driving to my job and to the office, and I'd get a block away, and I was sitting there. I remember sitting there at this one traffic light, and I just started crying. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this.
Wow.
So I went up to the North Branch, and my husband worked for the same company. So I would go up to the North Branch, and I would work remotely from his branch, or I'd spend a day with customers. Like I did whatever I could just to stay away from that one branch, because it was very, very toxic for me.
Wow.
And it became a point where I just sat in my truck one day going, I can't do this anymore. Like, this isn't going. Like, I didn't recognize myself. I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. Like, I hated my life. I was like, I didn't like this at all. Yeah.
And I mean, so where did you go from there then? Because I've known you for a while now, and your smiling face, that's how you always are. So I don't see any part of that in you at all.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because the little Shawna in you, who grew up with 3 brothers and a dad with a welding shop, I was used to being around the male. I was used to being around men, right? So it was that little girl always kind of proving herself. Like, I knew deep down that it was just in that environment and around certain people. So I would then try to pick myself up by hanging, like I said, by hanging out with my customers, spending time with my customers I had a territory. So I would drive my territory a lot, up at the other branch, where I was welcomed with open arms. So I would try and focus on all the things that made me happy. Yes. And so that's where I ended up getting through it all. But then it came a point where, my relationship with my boss, he was in another province. He was in BC, and I just wasn't happy. It was like, it was interesting, because when you get to a point where you're not happy anymore, it's like you start to blame everybody. So it's like you get mad at the world and you get mad at everybody. So that's kind of where I was at. And now all the work I've done with mindset, I now look at it, really realize, okay, what I wasn't happy inside. And because I wasn't happy inside, it was chaos outside. But through all of that, I went on a retreat back in 2018 with a group of women. And it was my first retreat called Abundance Ignited. And I never went on one before. And that's where I met all these women. And I almost backed out 3 times, because I was like, oh my God, I can't want to retreat with 18 women. We're like, what do I talk about? I was like, I don't gotta do that. And so I went on this retreat, and I heard these women's stories, and I was brought to tears the first day. Like, I just completely was brought to tears by their stories, and thought, oh my goodness. And so then I thought, wow, I haven't had a lot of the trauma stuff they've had. But then I started telling my story, and like through businesses and all the things I'd gone through in my career. And at the end, there was a few coaches that came up to me, and they're like, wow, we need you in our industry, in the coaching industry. Like, you can so help women. And at the time I was like, wow, I didn't see that. And then I came back from that retreat. I literally hired 5 of the coaches. Wow. And that started me on transformation journey, because I was so fascinated by the coaching industry, and I knew nothing about it prior, because I was in the HVAC world, so heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and I called it my HVAC bubble, because I was in it for 25 years. So I didn't know much about, like, a bit of personal development. Of course, we had guest speakers coming in for conferences, but I had no idea of this billion-dollar corporation, this industry, right? And so as I started working with these coaches, and this whole world was opening up, and through my own mindset and transformation, I was just like, wow, then it changed. And literally I had like put a 5-year plan in place, but then in a month, I think I took it down to 3 years. And then 2 months, I was like, okay, in 1 year. And so that was April. I came back from the retreat, April 2018, and September 2018, I resigned from that industry and moved into the coaching industry.
Wow. Well, sometimes life works in our own best interest, even though it's painful, because here you are, right? And you've made a complete 360 change to your life, and your happiness. So it just goes to show, you know, that so many of us, we get stuck, or we don't think we can do anything else, or we have a negative mindset for sure. And the next thing you know, we're just, you know, the years go by, and the next thing you know, you're like, well, I wanted to do all those things, but I never, you know, I out of fear or just feeling stuck, I never moved forward. And it's almost like life said to you, okay, you either move forward or you're toast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, when I was younger, I always used to like think the world's my oyster. What do I do? I can do or be anything I want, right?
Yes.
And then I kind of lost that part of me, and then that part came back now.
Yeah.
And it through this industry now and helping other women and bringing in my sales experience, my mindset, like all of it, it's been an amazing journey. And I am so grateful and thankful for those lessons and for the pain and for all of that I went through, because through the work I've done now, I can look back and go, okay, what was the role I played in all that?
Right.
You know, and it's like, how was I then causing it? Because I teach all about E+R=O, which is there's an event, it's how you respond to the event gives your outcome. So I started really diving into the years that I called horrific, that I hated. And I started looking at the role I played. And that was where I was able to then go back, do healing, do forgiveness work, and go, wow, there was a lot of lessons there, because I look at it now as an aspect where I wasn't aligned for many years.
Yes.
But I was in my own comfort zone. I was scared to go do something else. I was scared to venture out, which I hadn't been scared. A lot of my years, I was fearless. All the stuff that I'd been up against before that, I was pretty much fearless.
Yes.
But within that 9-year period, I crumbled.
Yeah.
And so looking at all of that and then looking at now, and it was like, wow, that was pretty powerful, because I'm thankful for all of that, because I'm able to coach and help women through things that if I had not gone through those experiences, I wouldn't have been able to relate to other people.
Wow. Well, life happens for us, right? Not to us. That's how we have to look at it. And I know a little bit about what you're up to and what you're doing, and how you are helping women. And I think it's fabulous. And those women back in 2018 were absolutely right. You're needed out there for sure. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you being here. So if anybody wants to reach out to Shawna, you will find all of her contact information in the description below. So don't hesitate to reach out to her if you'd like to speak to her, or just find out what she's up to. And I'm sure she'd be happy to chat with you.
Yes, definitely.
Well, thank you so much, Shawna, for being here. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Julie. And thank you for the opportunity of sharing my story in your book. It's been a healing process for me. I'm so grateful for that opportunity.
Well, and I'm thankful that you did it. So thanks very much. Okay, we'll see you soon.